You're listening to the Do Something More podcast, and this is episode 17 with Lincoln Bailey and Serving the Elderly with Letters from Lincoln. Welcome to the Do Something More podcast, a service-oriented show where we highlight the helpers who inspire us all to do something more. I'm your host, Melissa Draper. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to another episode of the podcast, and I am super excited about my guest today, Lincoln Bailey. And I actually saw a little post that Lincoln did on our community's Facebook page and was so impressed with that, and went to his Instagram account and was even more impressed with some of the awesome things that he's doing with his nonprofit Letters from Lincoln. So first, Lincoln, I just want to invite you to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Why don't you start off by just kind of introducing yourself?
Okay, so my name's Lincoln Bailey. I do acting and modeling around the state of Utah and outside of Utah. I've been to New York, New Jersey, Idaho, Utah, Montana, and Nevada.
Wow.
And with acting, it doesn't really pay the bills until you get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I need a job. And so I just got done with a photo shoot at my agency. And I borrowed my mom's scrubs, and I was like, I need a use for these scrubs because my mom said I could keep them. So I went on to Indeed and I looked for nursing homes in the area that were hiring. And I got a job at a local nursing home. And in my interview, I said, I want to work, as little as possible. I don't need a job. I have a career.
Right. Okay, so that working at the nursing home, I'm guessing, or the assisted living kind of led into your Letters from Lincoln.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, so yeah, tell us a little bit more about that, how that all got started.
Yeah, so I worked in the nursing home. It was like one day a week, I was, changing the trash cans. And then I was like, as I was changing one of the trash cans, a resident came up to me and she grabbed my hand and she was like, I am so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. I can tell you actually care. And I thought to myself, all I'm doing is changing the trash cans. What kind of people are working inside of these places if if you think I actually care. And deep down I did care, but I didn't really have that time to interact with the residents.
Right.
So then I went to the boss and I was like, hey, do you have any more shifts? I need to work graves or something because I have a career I like. So then I started going full time. And so I was working like 2 night shifts a week, 3 night shifts a week. And I would come in on my days off, during the day, after I got some sleep if I did, or in between my day job, or I'd come in early, I'd stay late. And I would start, just talking to these residents one on one. When I would pass their meds, I would spend, 10 to 15 minutes in each room. And the one resident that grabbed my hand and she was like, I can tell you actually care. We sat down and we talked for a good 2 hours just about life. And I gave her my number and I said, if you ever get lonely, feel free to reach out.
Wow.
And then I texted her one day because I was bored and I was like, hey, how do you feel about going to lunch today? And she was like, I would love that. I would love that. And so we ended up brainstorming. I was like, where do I take her? I want to take her somewhere, local, somewhere close. And we ended up going down to the Cracker Barrel and we just talked about life. And I got her out of the home and she was grateful for that. Then I thought about it some more and I was like, I need to do this to other residents. So then I took another resident out. We went to one man band and then I was like, oh, this is actually fun. I'm learning stuff from these elderly people and I feel like I have grandparents. This is fun. And so then we started making TikToks together. And so a lot of the time it's not like a physical letter because I write a lot of letters. I have probably about 100 letters that need to be mailed out. But
Wow.
I take them out to lunch, or I take them to like a $5 movie on Tuesday, or I take them just to go get ice cream or a simple walk in the park. I'll go to a nursing home that I have approval to be in, and we'll take them for a walk to the park across the street or something.
So it sounds like it just all started with you wanting to connect with these residents that you were
Yeah,
seeing
because
working with.
because I felt bad, they're just laying there and not many
Yeah,
people came to visit them, and I was like, "They have a story, they've lived a life, let's try and improve the quality of life in their final days."
right. Oh, I love that. And yes, I've had those experiences too. You start talking to them and learn about the amazing stories and experiences they have to share. So, is it, you mentioned, I know you've done lunches, you've done walks in the parks, and you've written letters. What are all of those encompassing? Do you just kind of do what you feel you want to do with individuals as you meet them or connect with them?
So, I'm only in about 2 different homes right now, and I'm
Hmm.
there's people in the community that are like, "Hey, can you go visit my grandpa or my grandma?" I'll go visit them and I'll just talk to them, and then I'll tell them a little bit about my nonprofit and see if that's something they're interested in, and a lot of people, when I reach out to them, they don't understand. They're like, "What do you want from my grandma?" or "What do you want from my grandpa? He's like he's dying, he's what do you want from him?" It's like, I want nothing. I just want them to smile and to be happy. Like, I'm not doing this for me. And so a lot of people, they just don't understand the mission and what I'm trying to accomplish here. And so it's hard to get into more homes. And I want to branch out to more elderly and more people, but it's been a challenge.
Right, to try and reach. No one believes how altruistic it actually is for you.
Yeah.
So how have you taken it though from you doing this service to wanting to make it into a nonprofit? What has that experience been and what led you to do that?
Yeah, so I was doing like just starting out, I was doing it all out of my own pocket. I'd get paid and I would go like it started with I think it was Valentine's Day. I went to Walmart after I got off a grave shift at the one house and I bought, like 20 candy bars and some cookies. And then I drove to the other home and I handed out the chocolates for Valentine's Day. And then, like I said, I've been paying for the meals out of my own pocket. And I thought, if I have a nonprofit, it's not just some guy coming to these homes, it's somebody that's entrusted with the community, somebody that, is not doing it for
Right.
any gain of his own. When people see nonprofit, they see, okay, it's certified, it's actually not profit, not for profit. It's a good
Right.
service. When they see nonprofit, they think, oh, it's a good service.
And you can get donations as well.
Yes, and
Cost.
I've actually had, quite a few people donate, I've had cash donations, I've had people mail in envelopes and stamps, and they've donated money to help get, stuff to write letters, they've donated money for lunches and outings and stuff like that.
That's great. And yes, we will leave some of that information in the show notes for anyone listening that wants to donate as well. So what have you decided is the overall goal or purpose of Letters from Lincoln?
So, honestly, like, I don't really have a goal of where I wanna end up.
Hmm.
Because I want it to be a continuous thing. I wanna get more people involved, but that gets tricky. But I wanna get more people involved, so if people wanna write letters and mail them to me, or I can pick them up and then we can disperse them, or if people wanna draw pictures, we can go deliver those to community centers. I got a buddy that does voiceover, and I'm trying to talk him into because he does like impressions and stuff. I'm trying to talk him to come to some of these homes and talk to the old people with impressions and accents and
Oh, that's awesome.
stuff like that. So I guess the overall mission, and it's what's listed on my TikTok, is improving the quality of life one smile at a time. That's my mission statement, and I just want to reach as many homes and as many elderly as possible.
I love that. That's a great mission statement. And yes, you mentioned your TikTok. I went on your Instagram account and saw some of those. I love some of those videos you've put together. Are there any experiences you want to share or stories that you've had while making those and putting those together with your organization?
Yeah, so the first nursing home or assisted living home I was in, they all knew I was an actor and they would always, ask me about my acting. But a lot of them have dementia and Alzheimer's, and they're very forgetful. But
Right.
what I've come to notice is they don't forget, the good you've done to them. They'll remember that. So I'd come in for a shift and then they're like, "When are we gonna make another one of those TikTok video
Oh,
thingies?"
I love
So
that.
they'll ask, "When are we doing it?" So it kind of became part of their daily programming. And they're always like, "Where's my lines? Where's my script?" And I'm like, "You guys don't have a script." Because I'll give them like a line to remember, and they won't remember it for the life of them. And so it's all whatever's in these videos, it's all from the heart. It's all whatever they're thinking. Like I'll give them a line, but they can't remember it, so they'll say what they think the line is.
I
So
love
like,
that.
yeah. But like one particular memory that sticks out to me is one of these videos. It's the one where, I started singing the Hokey Pokey with one of the residents. And she has dementia, and so I started singing the Hokey Pokey, and then she started belting out the Hokey Pokey, and I have never heard her sing before, so it was such a interesting experience, joyful, interesting experience, and then I talked to my mom afterwards, and my mom's a nurse,
Uh-huh.
and she was like, "Most people with, like, dementia, and stuff like that, the things they remember are the songs." So she probably sang that to her kids or grandkids or something, and that's what sparked that song.
Yeah, music really can bring them alive and bring back some of those memories. Oh, Lincoln, I love that. And yes, I think I saw one video you did with a woman where you were asking for her advice to give kind of one-line advice. I think it was someone you'd taken out to lunch, or another one where it was Mother's Day and it looked like you'd taken some of them to church.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, that's great. Well, we'll put your TikTok and your Instagram in the show notes as well. So, what would you say? What are some of your biggest whys for doing what you're doing, or some of the biggest benefits that you've seen for you personally as you've engaged with these elderly residents?
Yeah, so for me, I started it because I saw, a need that needed to be corrected. But I continue doing it because I see the joy it brings to people and not only to other people, but to myself. I struggle with, mental health and depression, and I'm always asking myself, am I doing enough? Am I doing good? And when I'm serving people, just people in general, it doesn't have to be the elderly, just when I'm serving people, I kind of forget about my sadness, and I feel like I'm in my calling, I'm doing something of meaning and making a difference because there's so much darkness in the world, and so it's nice to feel like I'm putting a little light back into it. And so that's why I continue to do it because I just care about people's success.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so true. I've heard others mention that on this podcast and in places as well that many times when you're feeling down yourself, reaching out and serving those around you can be a great way to help lift you. And like you said, bring some light into the world. So I agree with you that there is a big need for showing this kind of love and service to our elderly population. So, do you have any advice for anyone listening that has thought about wanting to get engaged, like with the things you're doing, or encouragement just to give to someone that has seen that need as well and thought about doing those kinds of things?
Yeah, so my advice would be just don't think about it. You got to act because everybody needs a friend. You can't buy your friendships. Friendships have to be earned and trust has to be earned. So you earn a new friend, and then you cherish those relationships and those memories. And that's part of the reason why I record the TikToks is because eventually, these elderly people that I take out to lunch or I write letters to or I just sit and talk with, eventually, they're going to pass away. And I've dealt with some loss
Hmm.
with people in these homes, and it's been rough, but it helps keep their memory alive after they pass on. So my advice would be just reach out.
I love that. And I love how you've kind of brought that element of fun to it as well.
Yeah, because it doesn't have to be work. Like, I no longer work in retirement homes anymore, or nursing homes, or assisted living homes. I don't work night shifts. I'm not really involved in them anymore. I just, because that way, it's not set hours. I can choose when I want to go into these homes, which I like to do it pretty frequently. I can go to multiple homes. I'm not just tied down to one or two homes. I can go to multiple homes and reach more people without working in the homes. I reach more people that way.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I wanna go back. You also mentioned something that I think is a reality when you choose to serve or work with the elderly, is that they're not going to be around forever, and there is that element of loss that you might experience as you're serving them.
Yeah. It's been hard. My first loss, it really hit me because, it was my very first resident I ever lost, or my very first, I don't want to call him resident, my very first friend,
Yeah, your first
because
friend. Yeah.
I would go into the room every night, when I worked the night shift, and I would just pass her meds, and then I would just sit and talk with her, and she was always so apologetic when I had to change her diaper and whatnot. She's like, "I'm so sorry, I'm being difficult," and I'm like, "No, no, no, it's okay." And you kinda towards the end of their life, you see them declining,
Mhm.
and so, like, I knew it was coming, but I couldn't process that she was actually gone, and so it was rough. But, that didn't stop me. I knew there were still more people that I needed to help and other people I needed to talk to. And so that's part of the reason why I started this, to improve the quality of life one smile at a time.
And improve it until the very end of their life as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I love those thoughts that you've shared, and I love, like you said, that you've got those videos and you have other things you can do to help create those memories as you anticipate the loss as well. So, well, any other thoughts or advice you want to share just for anyone that is wanting to make a difference in the world in their own way? Because you've just done this straight from seeing a need. So, any advice towards that end for anyone that wants to make a difference or wants to act on a need that they see needs to be filled?
I'm just gonna say, like, anybody can do anything, and that's what I was told growing up, you can do anything you put your mind to. And like growing up, you're like, yeah, yeah, whatever, but it's actually true. And so if you see a need, do something about it. And you don't it doesn't if you see a need, you don't have to do something about it right now. You don't have to act now. You can think about it for a little bit, and it might not be the best situation for you. So if you see a need that needs to be acted on, but it's not right for you at the time, then don't do it. But if you see a need, just take a chance, and a lot of people, you get like dirty looks. They're like, "Oh, well, good luck with that," because they don't believe that you can achieve something. And that's part of that's what motivates me, is when people doubt me, because it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna prove you wrong," it gives me the
Mhm.
motivation because I love proving others wrong. I don't know, it's just something that I've always enjoyed, is just proving others wrong. Because
Mhm.
when you're doing that, you're proving yourself right, because there's so much doubt in the world as well. Why doubt yourself?
Yeah, that's great advice. That many times when we feel those kind of things, inspiration within to get something done, to not worry about sometimes the thoughts. And I think lots of times those thoughts are imagined. Sometimes we think, sometimes they are real, or sometimes we're worried about what others will think, but just to have the courage to act on the good thoughts that you have and to act on them. All right. Well, Lincoln, it's just been fun to talk with you about this experience. Do you want to share where others can find you, or where they can learn more about Letters from Lincoln?
Yes, so I was on Good Things Utah, so you can find that news article on their website.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
I'll put a link to that.
and then you can also find me on Instagram at letters underscore from underscore Lincoln. And then on TikTok, it's just um I forgot the TikTok handle, but I'm on TikTok as well. And then Venmo, if you guys are interested in donating. Even $1, it helps. But that is Gabe A. Ham Lincoln. And then if you could just put in the subject letters from Lincoln, that would help, because I do a lot of nonprofit works for other organizations as well.
Okay, that is great. Yeah, I will put links to all of those in our podcast show notes so anyone can go find out more information about you and the good things that you're doing, and also donate if they feel so inclined to some of those experiences. So thank you so much, Lincoln, for coming
Yes,
on the show today.
thank you so much for having me.
That concludes my interview with Lincoln Bailey and talking about his nonprofit, Letters from Lincoln. And I am just so impressed with the work that he's been able to do here. He started this just out of the goodness of his heart, noticed a need while he was working in a nursing home, invited someone to lunch, and started doing other things, and just found joy in that service and in giving to these elderly who he knew felt lonely and needed some of the love and attention that he could give them. And Lincoln, to me, is a great example that it really doesn't take much to truly make a difference. All you need is really a giving heart and a desire to help and fulfill a need. And I think he's doing that in a really awesome and unique way. We all have our own gifts. We all have our own talents. We all have the things that we notice that need to be done, or the things and ways that we notice someone needs service in our own circle, in our own community. And really all it takes is that we have to have the courage to act on those impressions that we get. And Lincoln's a great example of that. So I'm just so grateful he could come on the show today. Thank you so much for listening. As I mentioned earlier with the interview, I will leave links to all of the ways you can learn more about his nonprofit, Letters from Lincoln, in the show notes for the podcast. So go ahead and explore those if you are interested in learning and seeing more and seeing some of those awesome videos he's made of some of the service that he's done. So go ahead and check those out. And also, I would like to invite you to follow us on social media if you haven't already. We are on Instagram at dosomethingmore.podcast, or on Facebook at the Do Something More podcast. So that's a great way for you to see updates or other things that we're connecting with the episode that is dropping each week. So go ahead and follow us there on social media, or follow us on whatever podcast listening app you're using as well. So thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next time.